Hey guys, welcome back to Xamarin guys. So in this tutorial we are going to distribute our application using Visual Studio App Center. So at first we should have one account inside our Visual Studio App Center. Here I am logging in with GitHub account, and you can just log in with your Gmail as well as the Microsoft account. Here we will be distributing our application using Visual Studio App Center. We'll be learning about the build that we are going to send using Visual Studio, and then it will just build the application inside Visual Studio App Center and distribute our application to the testers. So there is a very long process, so follow along with this tutorial so that we can really understand how to build and how to distribute our application to the testers. To make this story short, I'm going to create two applications over here, that is one Android application and one iOS application, and I'm going to add testers inside Android application development and iOS application development. So this is the first and foremost thing that we'll do, that is selecting the Android project and the Xamarin platform that we have to select so that we can just give a release build of. Now our next task is to create the same application for iOS, selecting iOS and Xamarin. And there are release type of, and we don't want to discuss about this as of now because everything will be on the testing phase as of our first build that we are going to deliver to our testers. Now let's go to our github.com. Our second task is to log in inside your GitHub account. So you can just see over here I have same account that is being used inside my GitHub as well as the Visual Studio App Center, and it might be different for your case too. Now you can see over here I have created one repository named as Xamarin Forms Playground. So this is the repository name that I am giving it, and I'm going to make it as public, and let's create a new repository. So this is the link that is getting generated whenever we create a new repository. Now our next task will be copying this repository and then cloning it inside our desktop. Using this copy icon, we can just copy this URL and then clone it inside our desktop using terminal in my Mac machine, and if you are using Windows machine then you can use command and then put this code, that is cd space desktop, then the desktop mode is going to be activated. That means we are inside our desktop. Then we can clone the repository by giving git space clone and the URL that we just copied it from our GitHub. So we have successfully cloned our repository, and the same folder name is going to be displayed in my desktop with a hidden file name, that is .git. If .git folder is not visible for you, don't worry about that. You can just show it inside your show hidden files and folder, then you can just get it, the .git file getting displayed. Now our next work is to create one application named as Xamarin Forms Playground, and then put that application inside our Xamarin Forms Playground folder that is inside our desktop. So let's create application name as Xamarin Forms Playground. So you can see over here I have given my application name as Xamarin Forms Playground. So I have to put the whole solution inside our Xamarin Forms Playground. That means we are going to connect our application, that is Xamarin Forms Playground application, to the GitHub, which is inside Xamarin Forms Playground folder inside our desktop. So after clicking on create, then we will have our application ready. Let's change our project to release configuration and then select Android project as my starting project. So I'm going to archive this whole project so that we can just create a key store that is to be used inside our Visual Studio App Center. So let's archive this whole Android project and wait for some time. So this yellow color icon, if it's not visible for you, don't worry about that. This is the additional step in order to exclude that yellow color line. That means we have to go to the compiler, and then inside debug information I have to select none inside the release configuration. That's all. Now I need to again re-archive it. Let me delete this application that was archived before. Now it's again archiving it. Let's wait for some time. So you can see over here we have our application ready. Now we need to select the ad hoc configuration, and here our main objective is to create a new key that is to be used inside our Visual Studio App Center. So you have to remember this alias name because it is going to be used, and this password too. So these are the two things that are really important inside our Visual Studio App Center. So keep a note of alias and password somewhere inside your notepad or something like that, so that you can just reuse it later. So let's quickly add all the data inside this field so that we can just create a new certificate. So this certificate is going to be used inside our Visual Studio App Center. So this is the actual location of my certificate. So let's go to the Visual Studio App Center inside Drive. Now let's connect our Visual Studio App Center with the GitHub account. So you can see over here I have the same account that is being used inside our Visual Studio App Center in order to connect my Visual Studio App Center with GitHub. So we need to connect our Visual Studio App Center with the GitHub. So I have my project ready, that is Xamarin Forms Playground, inside my GitHub, so that it can take and branch it inside our Visual Studio App Center. So you can see over here we have already created branch over here inside our build. So now our next task is to create a group of testers to test our application, that is our Android application. So we are going to give a name for our testers as Xamarin app tester, and then we are going to add testers account. So this should be different than that of the account that was used in order to log in inside your Visual Studio App Center. So this is my next account, that is my Outlook account, and I have given this guy permission for testing my application, that is Xamarin guy 111 is going to test my application. So this is different account, and the account that was being used is different. So this is the collaborator and the one is the tester. Let's go to iOS project, back again to the home page, and then add another group of testers, that is our iOS testers, because we know that iOS testers might be different and the Android testers might be different in an organization. So I'm going to give the name for my testers for iOS as Xamarin Forms Testers, that is our group, and I'm going to give iOS in order to make it more convenient to understand. So here the Xamarin guy 111 outlook.com is going to be tester. That means I have only one tester which is going to test our Android and iOS project. So I'm going to put a new group name and putting that guy inside the testers for iOS too. Our next task is to again connect our iOS project with the GitHub repository that we have created. So this line of code, So this line of code tells that I have to use the latest version of Xcode. So if you are not getting it, don't worry about that. I just need to upgrade my Xcode and use it. So it is telling me some build issues will be there. So we don't need to care as of now till November 5. So we have successfully created a branch for iOS project 2. So our work is over for Android and iOS. Hooray! We have done it. Now let me minimize this whole window, that is our browser window. Then this location will be used later. I'll just discuss it about the key file that is going to be used inside our Visual Studio App Center. Now we know that this whole project is inside our desktop, so I'm going to close all the Visual Studio. So make sure your Visual Studio is closed and you can see over here we have Xamarin Forms playground app inside this the desktop folder. So this application contains the whole project. Now our next task is to push the code using our terminal inside our Mac machine, and you can use command line tool inside your Windows machine. So before pushing our project to the GitHub, we are going to remove bin and obj folder from here, and the easiest way is to use source tree in order to push our latest code to the GitHub so that it gets built in Visual Studio App Center and distributes to our tester. So you can see over here I have already my terminal opened, and if you have already closed it, then don't worry, you can just type cd space desktop, then you will be in desktop mode. Then our next task will be just typing cd and then dragging and dropping that folder, the whole folder that is inside your desktop, in the terminal. Or if you are using your Windows machine, you can use command line tool or PowerShell. That's it. Now we are inside our Xamarin Forms playground folder. Now we can just add all the Git files inside our Git configuration, and then our next task is to commit our first codes inside our GitHub. So these are whole code, whole files that are going to be pushed to the GitHub. So let's wait for some time till our whole project gets inside our GitHub. So we got our project inside our GitHub, that is inside our master branch. So you can see over here the same repository name that we have created now have turned to the whole files that are inside our desktop. So these are all my desktop files that are inside our GitHub, and we know that we have created branches to connect our Visual Studio App Center with the GitHub. So our Android and iOS project is running its build. That means our whole project is getting built inside our Visual Studio App Center, and it's really crazy that our whole work is being done using Visual Studio App Center. So you can see over here whole our Android and iOS project build is getting displayed over here. Now our next task is to add the whole certificates inside the Visual Studio App Center Android section so that we can share our APK file to the testers. So in order to do that, there are lots of sections over here where we'll just select the sign-in builds and then add the key store file along with the password. So I have already told you before, we should have the file ready and the file should be on the location where we have saved. So let's collect that same file name. So we need to go to Android project, view archives. So in order to get that, I need to click on sign in and distribute ad hoc, and in order to get that whole location of the key store file, I need to go to ad hoc section, then select the Xamarin Forms playground, and if I click on show alias information, then it will display me this location of the file. So I'm going to copy it, click on OK. Let's go back. We don't want anything from here, from our Visual Studio. You can just close it off. We don't want that Visual Studio running. So if you go to go current, then you can just paste the location information over here, and then it will just navigate you to the key store file that was created. So this is the key store file that need to be dragged and dropped. Now the password that you have saved in your notepad, that I have already explained it before. So the same password and the alias information, that is the alias name that you have created while creating the certificate, which I have told you previously. So the same alias name, I'm going to add it. Then this password for the same alias name. Now we can just distribute our builds. So we can just select Xamarin App Testers group, because we know that the Xamarin App Testers group is of Android. So we can just distribute our build to the testers, and then we can just select this build status badge also. And then after clicking on this section, that is our build section, that is again going to build our Android project, and it will make us to wait for a minute or two in order to build our basic Android application. So let's wait for some time. So it is getting built back again, and then if everything is okay, then the build will be okay with grid badge, or else it will throw some error. So this is very common issue of Visual Studio, that is we need to disable the release configuration. So if I just copy this error line of code and then paste it, then the first GitHub link will show me the issue on the Visual Studio itself. So in order to fix it, I just need to copy this line of code, and then inside our Visual Studio Android project, I need to unload the project. Let me select unload and then edit it. So just find a place where we have property group ending and then paste the code. So this is the code. I need to just press Ctrl save and then reload the whole project. Now let's close the Visual Studio, and then we know that we need to exclude bin and obj file from the whole project in order to send our application to GitHub. So I'm just excluding bin and obj files, and then .vs file is hidden, and you can just enable it using some tool, that is file unhidden tools, in order to see the hidden files. So we are now ready with the project. Now our next work is to add all the files that were changed, and then we are again going to repeat the same process, that is git space commit -m, and then this is my second commit, my second push with apk to the testers, because we have just selected the testers inside our Visual Studio App Center. Now our next work is to push all my code changes to the GitHub. So during the same process, we can just check it out. Our whole application is getting built inside our Visual Studio App Center, and it's really awesome. You can just see over here the comment that I have used inside my terminal. It's getting displayed over here, my second push with apk to the tester. So the whole branch is getting built. If you are getting any build error, then keep on trying. It should build your latest project from here and then give you a successful output, that is green build icon that is getting displayed whenever the build gets successful. So let's wait for some time. It will hardly take 2 to 3 minutes, and if the project is really big, then it will take near about 5 to 10 minutes. So our build is successful. Now we should log into our testers account. So I have my testers account ready. Inside others, I'll get the Visual Studio App Center link with my application which was ready from our Visual Studio App Center. So before clicking on install, you should log out from your Visual Studio App Center. I'm again telling you, you should log out from your Visual Studio App Center before clicking on install button. So you can log in with your testers account back again. So this screen is going to be displayed whenever you log in with your testers account, or else you'll see the application is not ready whenever you just click on install button. So you should really log out from your Visual Studio App Center and then click on install, and it will just be the same process what I have done here before. So I have to again log out and then sign in with the collaborator account. Here GitHub account is my collaborator account, and we are now going to share our iOS project. So let's go to the build section of our iOS project. So inside my settings icon, here there are lots of settings that need to be configured for iOS. so we are not going to touch anything except our automatic increment builds and then the sign builds. So this is the same as the Android process, that is creating certificates. So I have already created one tutorial where I have uploaded my iOS app to App Store, where I am going to create some provisioning profiles, certificates, everything. So I highly recommend you to go through my tutorial, that is this tutorial, publishing iOS app to App Store. So this tutorial will guide you how to create all the provisioning profiles as well as certificates and then use it over here. And then we can just distribute our application to testers if we upload our provisioning profile and certificates over here. So we are going to select the build status badge 2 over here and then click on save and build. So our iOS work is done. So I have already mentioned you about how to send our Xamarin Forms Android and iOS project to GitHub. So if any changes are to be done inside your project, so you can just change anything inside your Xamarin Form project. Let's go to the main page and then the process repeats from here. That is, let's change something over here, that is inside our level section. If you have done some improvement inside your application, changes to main page. Then now our next work is to remove all the bin and obj file and again commit it and then push it to the GitHub, and it will again rebuild our whole project. So I'm going to again go to the desktop folder, and over here I'm going to just remove the VS folder from here, bin and obj folder from here, and then I'm going to remove the bin and obj from the Android to iOS to, and then I'm again going to add all the solution to the Git. So this is the whole folder that is being ready after removing all the bin and obj, and make sure your Visual Studio has been shut down. So I'm going to again drag and drop the whole folder, and then I'm going to get inside the Xamarin Form Playground. I'm going to add all the files to the Git configuration, and then our next work is to commit the whole project, and the whole process repeats on. That is, we are going to change something on the code and then write something on the commit, and then I'm going to push it, and the whole project will get built inside our Visual Studio App Center, and then the testers are going to test our application changes instantly. So that's all for this tutorial now. Thank you guys, thanks for watching. Keep in touch for next tutorials.